Start by taking a quick look at your project assignment here. Here's the assignment. The student will use the provided electricity cost fact sheet below on the next page to create a four-corner representation of each company's cost per kilowatt hour, kWh, for different levels. So there's 500, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 kilowatt hours of electricity usage. Students will combine the graphs of all four companies in order to compare the rates and determine the most cost-effective company based on electricity usage. So your fact sheet is going to look like this over here. Here's the four companies, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's their price per kilowatt hour, and then their monthly service fee. So I'm going to show you an example of doing like one company, but for a phone company that charges a price per minute and a monthly fee. And you're going to try and relate it to these and do the same types of things. So let's look at my example. Here's mine as a cell phone company, and so I just got one company, Jaeger Phone Company. And instead of price per kilowatt hour like yours, it's price per minute for the calls, 10 cents per minute. 10 cents for every minute, or times every minute. And a monthly fee of $10. Okay. So your first representation is going to be whoops. So now we'll talk about the four multiple representations. The first one is verbal or written description of this. Well, for my company, the cost, the total cost, is 10 cents times every minute used plus a $10 monthly fee. So again, the total cost, how do you figure out the total cost? It is or is equal to 10 cents times every minute plus $10. That is a verbal description, one way to represent a function. The second way is with a table. So here I picked my x, or independent variable numbers. I'm going to plug them into my verbal description basically and figure out the total cost. So if you use 0 minutes, so I take 10 cents times 0, that's how many minutes, plus $10 equals $10. If you use 50 minutes worth of calls, then you take 10 cents times every minute used, 50, and then add $10 to that, and that comes out to $15. 100 minutes, 10 cents times 100 plus $10 equals $20. And 500 minutes used, 10 cents times 500 plus the $10 monthly fee equals $60. Now in yours, your independent variable will be kilowatt hours, and they give you what they want you to use. You could add something if you needed to, or you wanted to. So if we look back at that fact sheet real quick, where is that thing? Right here. They wanted you to use levels of 500, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000. I always like using 0, so you might add that in too. You'll see why in a minute. So that was the second type of representation. We had the verbal, writing it in written language, table. The third way is to graph it. So we can take these points from our table and graph them. The first one is in mine is the point 0, and y is 10 here, 0, 10. 0 in the x direction and 10 in the y would be right here. First, I should have talked about this, the graph itself. You're going to label the axis. Of course, my x-axis, my independent variable, is the minutes used for my cell phone company. And the y-axis will be the total cost in dollars. And I look at my table of values, I can see the x's go from 0 to 500, the minutes. So I spread those across. You want to cover most of the graph. So I went by 50, 50, 100, 152, 250. If I would have gone by hundreds, it would only gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the middle of the graph, and we want to stretch it out a little more. Okay, so you got to figure out your scale for that axis to spread it out and show the data across the whole or most of the graph. The Y numbers, the total cost, I can see again looking at the table, the cost goes from $10 up to $60. So it started at 0 and I spread it out like this. That covered actually the whole length of that vertical axis there, going by $5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Take a little pause here. Then back to plotting these points. Of course, the first one was 0, 10. The second one was 50 minutes and $15 right there. 100 minutes and $20. Again, I'm getting these points, these values from the table we did first. And then the last one for 500 minutes, it costs $60. It's right there. So we connect those with a nice straight line. It's a linear equation. And there's our third representation, a graph. The last one is an equation. I like the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope or rate of change of the line. So here I show a little example using two of the points from my table or graph. How to use the slope formula to figure out the slope of the line, the number that goes there. Then we'll talk about the y-intercept in a second. That number, once you have those two numbers, you just plug them in and you've got your equation that we're looking for. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we label these points. Here's my 2 points. This is an x value, and this is a y. I call this my first point. That's why it has the 1s there. This will go in place of x1 and y1 here. Then this is an x, and this is the y of the second point. These are x. This is my second point, so they're labeled with the subscript of 2, and they'll go over here where y2 and x2 are. So the formula says take y2, which I've labeled as 15, minus y1, which is 10 over here. Then on the bottom I have x2 minus x1, 50, minus the x1 over here is 0. So if I do the subtraction on top, I get 5, subtraction on the bottom, I get 50. And 5 divided by 50 is 0.1, which is just like 10 cents. You know, it's that 10 cents. Here it was right here. Here it was in the description, 10 cents times every minute. This was the rate of change or the slope of the line. Okay, but if you don't see it right away, that's the way to calculate it from 2 points from your table or graph. The next thing is the y-intercept. It's labeled B here. The y-intercept is where the line touches the y-axis. And it's right here at 10. When it touches this y-axis, the x number is 0. That's why I was saying, yeah, you might want to put in x is 0 there and see where that y-intercept, that's the easiest way to do it. Plug it in there and calculate the y value, and then you'll have that b number, the y-intercept. So now I have the slope is 0.1, the y-intercept is 10, and so we just plug those numbers in here in for slope, 0.1x. And then the y-intercept is positive 10, so we put over here the, plus 10. The equation of this line, of this situation, is y equals 0.1, or 10 cents, times x plus 10. So there's the fourth representation you're going to do, is the equation. So you'll do each of these 4 representations for each company. That's why you have 4 sheets with the name of the company on top. And then you will combine 4 graphs on the final big graph paper so you can compare them. You might do the lines in different colors and put a little legend over here of the name of the company with the color. And then you'll do the last sheet, which asks some questions about the big graph of all companies. Let's take a peek real quick at those and see where that is. So again, you've got your fact sheet with the 4 companies and what they charge. Then you'll have 4 of these, one for each company. Here's the discount power company. You'll do the verbal description, the table, the graph, and the equation. Show your word for calculating that slope. Write the equation. Here it is for the second company, same thing. Third company and fourth company. Then, to compare all 4 companies, you're going to put all 4 graphs on one piece of paper. Again, use different color markers or whatever. And then you're going to answer these questions about it. You're going to look at it. When would the consumer want to use this? Well, consumer wants to use something when it's cheaper. Okay? How does an understanding of functions and multiple representations empower you to be an informed consumer? Smarter consumer. How does it help you? What is meant by multiple representations of a linear function? What other real scenarios can you think of which you could use multiple representations to make informed decisions? So give me a couple of those, okay? Alrighty, good luck. Shouldn't be too bad.